Oh yeah, what's going on, GameLeapers? This is Diggs, and in today's upload, the 10 craziest builds so far of patch 12.22. Now, there are probably still going to be other builds out there. Of course there are. There are more than 10 builds in the game. So if you guys think you have a really wacky build that might be super OP as well, let us know in the comment section what that is. Make sure you check out the GameLeap website, description, comment section, our library of challenger tier content. It's waiting for you. It's a click away. So get signed up, get that exclusive access to those vids. So we're going to start, guys, by talking about the Ravenous Hydra champions at the moment who are super busted. So the first of these, this is Shyvana. Now, with the new carnivorous stacking from the Ravenous Hydra, even though the passive did actually get nerfed, so you're only getting a maximum 20 AD instead of 24, this is pretty minimal, and the item is still super busted. And on Shyvana, when you pair this with a Bork and Divine Sundra, the DPS you deal is insane. And because of the lifesteal from Bork and the max HP damage from Sundra from the Spellblade, it is a super broken combination. And even though this is only like 17 games from high reloads, it does have a 76% win rate. And if you check the other reloads, Shyvana is absolutely killing it. And for Shiv, by the way, just to do really well in high elo, this speaks volumes to how good she actually is, because typically she's quite an easy jungler to play against, but just because of Ravenous Hydra, it makes her super broken. Now, the next champion to think about building Ravenous Hydra on, this is Sett. And yes, you heard me correctly. Even though Ravenous Hydra isn't giving you a massive amount of ability haste, and even though Tiamat is legit giving you like nothing, it's not the biggest spike in the world, but once you finish the actual item, it feels insane on Sett. The extra wave clear it gives you, the cleave passive of course, and the extra attack damage from the carnivorous passive, it is just too broken. You can see that in high relo and career at the moment. From 66 games, it has a 62% win rate, so it's actually being built, and it's actually doing very, very well. Of course, as your mythic item, you can substitute Eclipse with Duskblade or Prowler's Claw, depending on the enemy team composition. If you feel as if they're building lots of armor, Eclipse for the armor penetration passive is going to be more useful. So Sett and Shiv, the first two Ravenous Hydra abusers. The third of these is Lee Sin. Now, of course, there are going to be more abusers, but these honestly are probably the top three as we speak. So just like I mentioned for Shyvana and Lee Sin, the cleave passive for Leah helps you clear jungle camps better, and the carnivorous passive gives you the attack damage to legit one-shot champions. Like as soon as you get Hydra, if you can ambush someone who isn't expecting you to be in a brush, or as soon as you land a Q, that champion is honestly probably dead. The damage output is kind of insane. Once you finish this off with Gordrinker and then Black Cleaver, the build is just too OP not to mention in this video. So Lee Sin, who is another champion who doesn't really do too well in terms of win rates, he's actually popping off in high reloads with over a 50% win rate. That's when you know, because Lee Sin, high skill cap champion, when he has a good win rate like that, that means the champ is broken. Now moving on to number 4, I don't really want to talk about this champion for that long because she's so annoying, but this is Belveph. And for Belveph, we're not talking about Ravenous Hydra, we're talking about the other Hydra, Titanic. Now, not just Titanic though, we're talking about synergizing this, and for the next champion as well, synergizing this with the new Heartsteel mythic item. This item, because it gives you 800 HP, think about it, 800, that is insane. And because of Titanic's passive, where it's transferring all of that bonus HP from your items into bonus attack damage, think about this on Belveph. The damage you deal, just make sure you get Bork first, because you will be lacking a little bit of DPS if you just rush like Heartsteel into Titanic. So you need the Bork first, but once you do finish this core setup, it is just unreal. You cannot die because you're so tanky because of all that HP, and the actual passive from Heartsteel, where your attacks are going to deal more damage based on the time you've been in combat with enemy champions, it is so busted. And I'm sure some of you have seen this by now, so that's the first champion you can really abuse this on. Now, the second champion you can abuse this on, this is Sett, and exactly like Belveph, I'm talking about Sett with Titanic Hydra and Heartsteel, okay? But a bit different to Belveph, you can actually rush this on Sett. Because in the top lane, you're going to be playing against melee champions for the most part, the passive from Heartsteel, you can activate this a lot, okay? So during those fights, you will be hitting like a truck, and once you do get Titanic Hydra, and the passive gives you all that bonus attack damage, it's kind of nuts. Also remember for Sett that your ultimate deals more damage based on the target's HP, right? So if you're against someone who's building this, the HP they have, it's going to be off chops. That means your ultimate is going to deal so much damage to them. So Sett actually loves not only building this, but playing against champions who build this as well. And of course, for your third item, you don't have to go Cleaver, you can go Death Stance or maybe something else. So probably just build a Bruiser item here, depending on the enemy champions. Now, the only AP champion, guys, I have on this countdown, because AP items haven't really changed that much. Okay, there's Rod of Ages in the game, but for iCarly, with Heartsteel and then Demonic Embrace, this is almost like the AP variant, right? Because Demonic Embrace's passive is kind of like Titanic Hydra's, where it's translating all that bonus HP you have into AP. So this means when you have that 800 HP from Heartsteel with Demonic Embrace, you deal so much damage. So we're kind of like playing Bruiser iCarly here in a way. And because you're a melee champion, you'll be in the enemy team's faces, you'll be proccing the passive from this so often. And of course, as your next item, you can go Shadow Flame, you can go Zhonya's, you can go anything, really just depends on what you need in the actual game. So iCarly is another champion abusing this setup at the moment. It's super obnoxious, and if you do want free LP in the preseason, this is definitely a setup you should know about. Now, next up on the countdown, we're heading back into the jungle here and talking about a build that's super busted on Udyr. Now, Udyr at the moment, in every single elo, including in higher elos, where he might struggle a little bit more because he's a very linear champion, right? He has to run in a straight line, doesn't have any dashes, pretty easy to play against, but he's popping off. One of the big reasons why this build right here. Demonic Embrace. So when you see an AP item on Udyr, we are maxing our ultimate first, and then Jack Show. This new item, which is pretty much like a tanky Rift Maker in a way, where it just makes you tankier the longer the fight goes, and as Udyr, you're going to be in their face, right? You want to fight for an extended period of time, whether you have Conqueror, whether you have Lethal Tempo, and then you can finish this off with a Frozen Heart. Remember as well that Jack Show got buffed, so Hotfix buffed, which makes the item even stronger, and this setup for Udyr just gives you so much DPS. I mean, you have that innately because you are Udyr, but makes you so tanky. So the new mythic item Jack Show, pair this with Demonic Embrace and Frozen Heart. You don't actually have to go Frozen Heart. Of course, you won't be building this into magic damage teams. So again, substitute Frozen Heart, whatever you need in that game you're in. But yes, Udyr as well has to be mentioned here. But let's just say you don't play Udyr or you're not a jungler. Well, how about playing Irelia with Jack Show? So we're talking about Irelia in the mid lane or top lane, of course. And what you want to do, you want to get a Bork first. So Blade of the Rune King is your first item. This is essential because of the lifesteal, the DPS, and the on-hit. Very important for Irelia. Then we want to get Jack Show. This item, just like I mentioned for Udyr, even though it's not actually really giving you any damage in a way, because you're just getting tank stats, right? The armor, the magic resist, the HP, and ability haste, of course, which is nice, but you're not actually getting any raw attack damage or attack speed, but we already have enough DPS from Bork. So by kind of cheating the system in a way and getting a tankier item like Jack Show, just like I mentioned for Udyr, it just makes you so difficult to kill. You don't even have to land your abilities, you can just auto attack people to death. That's how broken it is. So if you really want to annoy the enemy team, test out Jack Show on Udyr or Irelia for the rest of 12-22 and maybe even the preseason. Now, the penultimate champion to discuss in this video, this is Hecarim in the jungle. Now, I know that Hecarim, well, he's a bit of a ubiquitous force, right? Because he's picked a lot and banned a lot. But to be honest, I think the champion is kind of trash and actually easy to verse. Kind of like how I mentioned for Udyr, right? He's a very linear champion, works in straight lines, and against coordinated teams and smart players, it's difficult to make work. But anyway, that's beside the point. The point here is the build with Shojin and Manamune into a Duskblade is absolutely slaying elos. The reason this is so broken is because Shojin now, well, think about it, Hecarim's basic abilities are huge, especially his Q. This, with Shojin, you deal a ton of damage to enemy champions, and with Manamune, which gives you even more damage on your Q, and Duskblade, of course, it's just an insane setup for Hecarim. Duskblade as well with a mythic passive feels really nice because of all the ability haste you will have. Just remember, guys, if you're gonna try this setup, that you are insanely squishy. Be very careful about just going in as the first champion. You kind of just want to wait and buy your time a little bit, and then in you go, getting pentakills. So super fun and probably crazy setup, but it does legit work. And if any of you guys, by the way, have actually tested out any of these builds, let me know down below in the comment section what you think of them, whether they are actually a little bit too crazy. And speaking of crazy, well, honestly, I think this might be the most legit build of them all. This is Gangplank, and what we're doing here with GP, because of the changes to Navori quick blades, the build here, we're getting an Essence Reaver first, okay? So nothing has really changed here. But then after this, we want to get 3 Cloaks of Agility. This is because 2 of these cloaks will give us 30% crit, because 1 cloak gives us 15%, 2 cloaks, we get 30%. And then the last cloak we have, this is going to transform into Navori quick blades. So the 2 big selling points for Navori, every time you attack, it's reducing your non-ultimate abilities cooldown, which is super useful for GP, of course, because your Q, W, and E, these are massive. But not only that, but your basic abilities will also deal more damage. And because of your barrels, especially in the late game, they're pretty much the biggest part of your kit, right? So this new iteration of Navori quick blades is huge for GP, and once you do actually hit this spike, you will be one-shotting people just like you did before. And with this build as well, you deal more damage on barrels, whether you auto-attack them or Q them with Navori, than you do with Infinity Edge. So those were, guys, the 10 craziest builds thus far of 12-22. Of course, we can upload more videos. If we find more builds, or if you guys let us know what those builds are, we can detail them for other people. So let us know down below. And if you did enjoy this video, please leave a like. And until our next preseason 13 upload, this has been Peace.